Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and we are answering publicly posted questions from our YouTube channel. Where we have a question that was posted. Well, it's actually two questions. Two questions from YouTube user Marshall Lip. The first question was posted 6 days ago, and I answered it in text format. And the second question was posted one day ago, and I'm making an all-inclusive video answer because that's what we do here. We answer questions for free. Okay, so here we go. 6 days ago, Marshall asked, in late 2020 and early 2021, an employer need to engage and give accommodations towards being absent at work while waiting for the vaccine? With a doctor's letter asking for such to be administered. It was requested by the employer, and the employer claimed they had no obligation to hold the position until I was vaccinated. But I have serious cardiopulmonary condition and I'm dealing with kidney failure, and I made them aware of that when I had my stroke in May of 2020. All right, so first answer to the first question. One, glad you are recovering from that stroke. Glad that was not worse than it was. Two, if you have disabilities, right? And it sounds like you absolutely do. If you have disabilities that made you incapable of coming into work until you could have the vaccine, then that would, in my opinion, qualify as a reasonable accommodation. And the employer would then need to engage in the reasonable accommodation dialogue with you and grant any reasonable accommodation. And I would argue waiting to receive the vaccine is inherently a reasonable accommodation for most employers in most situations. So kind of to follow up on my text answer that I gave you, I think, yes, you would do the reasonable accommodation dialogue, and I think, yes, the accommodation you requested was likely reasonable in nature and should have been granted. So yes, I think your employer failed in their duties to you in terms of the ADA federal laws, and certainly may have also failed under local and state laws, although I am not allowed to necessarily answer those questions depending on what jurisdiction and what state you are in. Then Marshall asked a second question. Is it against the law for the claimant to share the EEOC finding of probable cause discrimination publicly? I know the EEOC doesn't share it, but can the claimant? Okay, so and this is the part of the question that I'm going to put on the headline here because I think this is a good question. So the EEOC doesn't share these things, generally speaking. Occasionally, like maybe like 5% of cases they do. It's very rare, which I think you know. Now, I'm going to explain to everyone first what the probable cause finding is, because many people may not know. So when the EEOC finds that there's merit to your claim, instead of the usual letter they send out, which is just a right to sue letter, they might send out a letter saying, hey, we found probable cause in your case. We think there's a decent chance that this case should be investigated further, and that if it is, we may find discrimination or workplace sexual harassment, whatever it is, here in this situation. Sounds like you may have received one of those. Now, you're asking if you can share it publicly. The answer to that is yes, you can, unless you entered into an agreement not to. If you're covered by some kind of agreement not to, like a confidentiality agreement or something that might apply, then you may not be able to. But absent that, there's nothing keeping you from sharing that probable cause finding. Now, that's the legal answer. The tactical answer is, if you're still engaged in settlement negotiations, and if you share a probable cause finding, and if you do press on your case, then often your employer can no longer purchase your silence because it's already out there, right? Once you say something, once you go public, you never put the genie back in the bottle. And in a lot of jurisdictions and a lot of employers, what they're looking for is to purchase your silence. It's really ugly. It's an ugly truth, but it's what they want. They want the release too. They want you to stop suing them, but even more so often, they want your silence. They don't want people to know about what they did to you because they don't want to look like bad people. Of course, you're bribing people not to tell everyone else how bad you are, you might be a bad guy, right? Or a bad woman, either way. So if you go public, it may reduce the employer's eagerness to settle with you. But I don't know if you're engaged in settlement discussions. I don't know if that's something you're interested in. And the answer to your actual question is, as long as you haven't signed an agreement not to, then yes, you can share that. I hope this is helpful. I wish you the best of luck. I'm glad. Seems like you might be on the mend here, so I'm rooting for you in that sense. If this video was helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It does help me to help more people just like you. Take care.